methods, in fact. So, but before we move on, what we have to understand is what kind of methods they are. Okay. I mean, of course, there are some methods, but then their objective is to do what? Transform. Now, when we look at the dictionary meaning of the word transform or the literal meaning of the word transform, it may it is nothing but something that makes a what we call as a marked change. Okay, so this is what transform is going to mean. So that means now we are going to talk of something which is going to make a marked change in what? In the appearance of something. Okay, this is what transform means, right? See, this is how we talk of, a complete transform from this to that. So what is happening? Nothing else. The basic nature does not change. It's just that the appearance of that thing changes. That's what we call as transform. Okay. So it was Laplace who gave these transforms methods. That's why we call them as Laplace transform methods. But then the question mark now is, what are we going to change and where are they going to be used? Okay. Now, if you remember your ordinary second order ordinary differential equations, remember we had that dashpot equation, where we had something attached to a spring, and there was a dashpot, and it was the string was pulled, the object here hits the dashpot, moves back, forms. So it was sort of an oscillatory motion, and ultimately we proved that this motion is a differential equation, a second order differential equation of the form mx double dash plus cx dash plus kx equal to the force, which was a function of time. And dash x double dash here were nothing but dx by dt. Okay, and x was the distance traveled by that particle. Similarly, we have similar kind of equations when we are studying the circuits, the movement of current in a circuit. So that depends upon many things, right? It depends upon the resistance, it depends upon the current flow, and many more things. Okay. So the thing is that if we have a differential equation of this kind, then moreover, while studying the differential equations themselves, we had seen that a differential equation or anything else can be considered as an operator d when it operates. See, this is how we write. See, if you remember, when we write, say, even this equation, mx double dash plus kx dash, sorry, plus cx dash plus kx equal to ft, we can write d as an operator, okay, where d stands for what? D by dt, right? So that it operates on something. So it's like here the operator is, because x double dash is what? D2x by dt square. So basically this is operating, the operator is operating twice on x here, right? Similarly, x dash would mean when the operator is operating on x, and so on and so forth. So basically what happens is that this d can be regarded as a differential operator, so that when it operates on some function, the output is nothing but a differential equation. Okay, this is something that we have already done in second semester, right? Now the thing is that in a way the operator operates on some function to give us some another function, which we are calling as the derivative, right? Now you have seen that integration is nothing but the inverse operation of differentiation. We know that. Okay, so say that's what we have done. We know that since the derivative of sine x is cos x, therefore the integral of cos x is sine x. I mean, this is how we have done. Of course, the constant of integration and all, they're there definitely, but basically the differentiation and integration, they go hand in hand, because what differentiation does, integration does the inverse of that, right? Just like addition, subtraction, or multiplication, division. So they are two that kind of an operations. Now the thing is that in a similar manner, this is the process. Like if I say dy by dx and then integral of y dx, I mean, this is when you are operating, this is a process, right? But when we are talking of an operator here, right? Operator is something which is performing something on some function. Okay. So in a way, if D stands for the differential operator, then in a similar manner, I can have the inverse of that. Okay. Now, the moment you talk of inverse of that operator, what happens is that you are not just changing the shape or the structure of that, you are incorporating new variables also. So what happens is that, like, it's like a machine, you say, supposing you put in something. Okay, so you put in some function of t. Okay, say some function of t. The operator is the differential operator, the output is what we call as the derivative of t. Now it has to be the reverse. Okay, so in a similar manner, what happens is that when we are talking of the inverse operator for that, that is called as the Laplace transform, and it is denoted by L. The only thing is that when the Laplace transform operates on something, we get some another function, f of s. Okay, so in that means now we are transforming this function into some another function. But what is happening? The function is changing, of course. Whatever were the coefficients in this function, the coefficients will change. But not just the coefficient, it is the variable also which is changing. So because now you are transforming, you are not talking of the inverse operator here. It is a transforming operator. Okay. So what is happening is that whatever was your initial variable t is now being changed to some another variable s. And as a result, whenever this transform operates on some function, you are getting a new function. Okay. Now, as a result, what happens is that if I operate Laplace transform on any differential equation, see the question, as I said, the question should be, why do we need it? Okay. The answer is that many times, see, we have seen how to solve differential equation. We have seen how to solve ordinary differential equations. We have also come across situations where the coefficients are functions, and they can be ordinary points, they can be singular points. And we have seen how to solve those differential equations also, where we are getting the solutions in terms of some infinite series. Okay. Now, the thing is that supposing your differential equation itself is complicated and more time consuming. So the advantage of using Laplace transform is that your differential equation gets converted. So basically what will happen is that whatever was your, see, differential equations means what? An equation that involves derivatives, right? Now, when you apply Laplace transform on a given differential equation, you are going to get an algebraic equation. Okay, so basically that's what I said. Transform means what? Making a marked change in the appearance. Kiski of the differential equations. How are they going to change? They are going to change into algebraic equations. Okay, now differential equations we solve to get the solutions. Algebraic equations also we solve to get the solutions, but it's much more simpler, much more easier to solve algebraic equations as compared to the differential equations. So once we know the transform, I mean, we know the particular kind of a transform, a typical kind of a transform, when it's applied, how it is going to change the variables or how it is going to change a particular term, that then we can directly convert our differential equation into an algebraic equation. So what is going to happen? We can solve this algebraic equation. Once you solve this algebraic equation, basically you are going to get some solutions in terms of S, okay, and which can be later converted into T, because we have this transform with us. Okay, so this is the basic, use, in the sense that what we have to just remember is that Laplace transform, when it operates on any function of t, gives us some another function of s. Okay, depending upon specific nature of ft, what happens, I mean, if ft is a polynomial, or it is a trigonometric function, or it is an inverse function, we have certain standard rules, and we can, we can directly use them. So what kind of fs would be in that case? Okay, but the thing is that how to define this Laplace transform? How are we going to change? How are we going to transform the given function? Okay, so for that, what we do is, say, supposing I have a given function ft where t is more than or equal to 0, then this Laplace transform is defined as, which I have denoted like this also. This is defined as integral 0 to infinity e to the power minus st ft dt. Okay, this is how the Laplace transform is defined. That means, given any function, to compute the Laplace transform, basically we have to compute this integral. Okay, now if you just look at this integral, this is an improper integral. I hope you all remember what are improper integrals. Okay, this is an improper integral, and you know very well that any improper integral 0 to infinity, say gt dt, is actually nothing but limit b tending to infinity 0 to b gt dt. This is how an integral is defined. And if this limit exists, okay, then we say that what? That the improper integral converges, right? And if it does not exist, or it's infinity, we say that the improper integral diverges. Am I right or wrong? Hmm? Can anybody just speak up? Improper integrals, I think you've all studied, or not? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right? So, I mean, we know that if that means what? That means Laplace transform is basically going to end up in an improper integral, right? And this improper integral may converge, may not converge. Okay. Now, the thing is that, okay, of course, if it does not converge, it is of no interest to us. So we are going to be bothered only about those functions for which the Laplace transform exists, or the improper integral converges. But one thing is very clear, that whenever an improper integral converges, it does not converge to a finite value. It always converges to some function. And that function is what? This capital Fs. Is it okay? So basically, this capital Fs is basically nothing but the limit of this improper integral. Okay, the convergent limit of this improper integral. So if I am given any ft, and if I have to compute its Laplace transform, basically I have to just compute this integral, see if it converges or not. If it converges, then that the corresponding function becomes the Laplace transform of that ft. That means we are now going to get a table. We are going to have two columns, ft and fs. It's like, this is my input, this is my output, and what is in between, it's like a juicer. You are inputting this, the machine is doing something, and this is the output. And what is that machine doing? This is the Laplace transform. Okay, what is it doing? It is computing this improper integral 0 to infinity e to the power minus ft dt. Okay, so depending upon my ft's, I'm going to get my corresponding fs. So that means, say for example, the simplest of one, let us take our ft to be 1. Okay, I'm not saying ft equal to 1. See, ft is 1 because this is some function, no, some operator, some kind of thing here. Okay, so if my ft is 1 for t more than or equal to 0, then I want to compute what is going to be my Laplace transform. Okay, so in this case, basically, my Laplace transform of ft is going to be nothing but Laplace transform of 1. So basically, if you just look at this integral, it is going to be 0 to infinity e to the power minus st. What is ft? 1 dt. So what is it? Simply 0 to infinity e to the power minus st dt. Now, what is this integral equal to? Quickly. What is the integral of e to the power minus st dt? Bolo?
E to the power minus st by minus s.
Minus s. And you have to take the limit 0 to infinity. So, what will be the final answer? What will be the upper limit? When your limit approaches infinity.
0.
It will be 0. Then the lower limit?
1 by s.
By s.
No, this you already have a minus here. So it will be simply 1 by s. Okay. So isn't this a function of s? So basically, what does it mean? It means that Laplace transform of 1 is 1 by s. Is this clear? Now note one thing here. We had this limit exists when? I mean, when can we be sure that the upper limit is going to be 0? We just imposed one condition on t, that it is more than or equal to 0. We did not impose any condition on s so far. Will this limit, the upper limit will always be 0?
No, ma'am. If t will be less than 0, then it will not be.
This limit will be 0 only when s is more than 0. Because if s is also less than 0, then this is no longer 0. It becomes infinity. So the improper integral diverges in that case. It won't converge. So basically what is happening here? That we are getting a Laplace transform of this function as 1 by s, but only when s is more than 0, not for any other value of s. In fact, when we talk of Laplace transform or any transformation, the domain of that transformation is always defined. And it is normally of the form s more than or equal to a for some number a. Okay. So which in this case, if I say ft is 1, then fs is 1 by s for s more than 0. So this is my first result that you have got. Okay. So this domain is also important. Okay. Because the Laplace transform may not be defined for some other values of s. So this also we have to be careful. So that means basically this a we have to be careful. Okay. Now just try yourself. What if your ft is e to the power at for t more than or equal to 0? Definitely. Now that means what? This was a constant function. If your function is a constant function, we know the Laplace transform is going to be something like this. What if your function is an exponential function? Then what kind of a Laplace transform are we going to get? Just try it yourself. That means we have to now find the Laplace transform of this, which is going to be the integral 0 to infinity e to the power minus st into e to the power at dt, which is nothing but 0 to infinity e to the power. I deliberately want minus here because otherwise the limit will not exist. I have a function like this. So what is the limit here? What will be the integral?
E to the power minus in bracket s minus a into t by minus of s minus a.
E to the power this upon s minus a, but then you have to take the limits from 0 to infinity.
मैम एक माइनस साइन भी आएगा.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, minus here. Okay. Now, when you take the limits, what limit do you get?
1 by s minus a.
But that limit exists for, what is the condition on s then?
S
Greater
minus
than
greater than
S is greater than a,
a.
right? So that means, see again, that means now we have another result, that if ft is e to the power at, then Laplace transform of e to the power at is 1 upon s minus a for s greater than a. So this becomes your second result. Okay. Is that okay? Now, before we move over to sum, see, that means we have done for constant, we have done for exponential. Now, what are the other kind of functions that we can come across? We can come across polynomials. Now, polynomials means what? Something of the form t to the power n, okay? Or we can come across, trigonometric functions, something like cos t, sin t, or something like that, okay? But before we move over to such functions, you have heard of, have you ever heard of a special function which we call as a gamma function? Have you heard of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Now, gamma function is a very special kind of an improper integral, if you remember, right? And gamma function of x is defined as 0 to infinity e to the power minus t to the power x minus 1 dx, if I'm not wrong. Isn't it? And do you remember any properties of gamma function?
Ma'am,
Huh?
ma'am, the place where you have written dx, it should be dt.
It should be dt. I'm sorry. It's not dx, it is dt. And any property that you remember? Of gamma function. Any one property that you remember? Yaad hai?
मैम ऑफ गामा फंक्शन.
हाँ, of gamma function. Yes.
गामा n+1 इज n फैक्टोरियल होता है एक.
Gamma of
n+1 is n factorial.
n factorial. This is one property. Any other? What is gamma function of 1? तो यहीं से आ जाएगी.
1.
What is gamma function of half? This is a typical result.
Root pi by 2.
Root pi by 2 or root pi? I'm talking of gamma function of half.
Yes, ma'am, root pi.
It's root pi. Okay. See, these are certain results that we will be using also for gamma function. Now, why I'm saying this is because the moment we have a function of this form, t to the power n or t to the power a, our function, our Laplace transform gets converted into a gamma function. Say let us find the Laplace transform. Let your ft be now t to the power a. So what happens to your Laplace transform? this becomes integral 0 to infinity e to the power minus st t to the power a dt. यही हो गया ना? Now, if you just compare this with your gamma function, you want this. This is your gamma function. It's somewhat similar to this, but the only thing is that here we have e to the power minus st. Okay, but we want it to be e to the power minus t. So what I do is I define a variable u as st. Okay, and I'm defining another variable u as st. So that means what? That means your t is nothing but u by s, and your dt is nothing but 1 by s du. Okay, so when you, and your limits actually do not change because your limits are from 0 to infinity. So basically your Laplace transform of ft is then now 0 to infinity e to the power, instead of minus st, I'll have a u. Then I have a t here, which was nothing but u by s to the power a into, instead of dt, now I'll have du by s. Is that okay? Which is actually nothing but 0 to infinity e to the power minus u to the power a upon s to the power a plus 1 du. Now, isn't it similar to your gamma function? Because see, you are integrating with respect to u, so I can have 1 upon s to the power a plus 1 outside the integral, and I am left with only this integral, du. Right? Now, that means your Laplace transform of ft actually is nothing but 1 upon s to the power a plus 1. Now, if you look at the integral, it's a gamma function, right? But gamma function of what? You have u to the power a here. Compare it with this integral. So it becomes a gamma function of what? क्या हो जाएगा? बोलो. You compare this integral with the gamma function.
Plus 1.
Plus 1, kiska plus 1? I mean, it is a gamma function of what?
U.
What is gamma function of x? When you have t to the power x minus 1 and e to the power minus t. Now what do you have? E to the power minus u. So your t is same as u. But you have u to the power a here. So it's like e to the power minus t, t to the power a dt. So it's a gamma function of what?
Ma'am, gamma function of a plus 1.
It's a gamma function of a plus 1. And what is gamma function of a plus 1? A factorial upon s to the power a plus 1. So basically what have you proved? That Laplace transform of t to the power a is a factorial upon a plus 1. This is a major breakthrough. So if somebody asks you to find the Laplace integral of t3, a t cube, you don't have to compute it. It's simply 3 factorial upon s to the power 4. You don't have to compute the integral. You just have to remember this result. So that's why they are standard results. You know, and the fact that gamma function of 1 by 2 is root pi can be used when you have fractional powers, because in that case you'll end up with fractional power somewhere. Like for example, so basically this is t to the power n when n is an integer. Okay, what if n is a fractional number? Okay, then also we can find the Laplace transform. And in fact, we have a theorem which talks of the linearity of Laplace transforms, in the sense that if I have two functions, ft and gt, and a and b are any two constants, then Laplace transform of aft plus bgt is actually nothing but a into Laplace transform of ft plus b into Laplace transform of gt. Okay, and it is this result, that is actually going to be used while converting the whole differential equation into algebraic equation, because differential equation will not just have one term, it will be a linear equation, right? So if I have a linear equation, then I have this linear property of the Laplace transform also. So I just have to compute the Laplace transform of each term and then combine them. They will follow the same kind of a linear relation. And that is why we are able to convert the differential equations into algebraic equations. Okay. Similarly, coming to say, because, and not just this, see, we have seen how the Laplace transform of an exponential function behaves, right? Now, what if I have a hyperbolic function, say cos hyperbolic kt? I have to find the Laplace transform of this. But we know that cos hyperbolic is actually nothing but e to the power kt plus e to the power minus kt by 2. So which is nothing but 1 by 2 e to the power kt plus 1 by 2 e to the power minus kt. Now, if I have to find the Laplace transform of cos hyperbolic kt, then it is going to be by the linear property 1 by 2, the Laplace transform of e to the power kt plus 1 by 2 Laplace transform of e to the power minus kt. Both these, we have a standard result for them. Okay. So one just use that result and we get the Laplace transform. So basically you have to just remember the few ones, and then they can be used. Similarly, you can compute for sine hyperbolic kt. Okay. But say supposing you have not hyperbolic, cos and sine. See, usme bhi, because we have a standard result for exponential functions, it becomes easier. See, e to the power minus kt is actually nothing but cos kt plus iota sine kt. We have this result with us. Okay. So basically, you can also write cos. Similarly, you can write for e to the power minus kt minus ikt as cos kt minus iota sine kt. Now, using both these equations, can we not find cos kt and sine kt? Both of them in terms of e to the power ikt and e to the power minus ikt. So, we did not impose any conditions. Iota can remain as iota. It's not creating any problem for us. Okay. Wherever I have I square, I'm going to convert it to -1. Wherever I have iota, I'm going to take those terms separately and deal with them later on. Is this okay? So similarly, I can have the formula for the Laplace transform of cos kt and the Laplace transform of sine kt. Is this clear? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So I'm ending up here today. I won't do further. I'll just tell you what you have to do. Okay.